Hi everyone! I wanted to share another Sale-a-Bration card with you today. Sale-a-Bration is in full swing. It just started on January 3rd and it runs through March 31st. And you get to choose products for free based on your purchases. So if you spend $50, you can choose a level 1 product, and that includes things like this stamp set. There's ribbon and card kits and note cards, all kinds of great offerings at the level 1. And then if you spend $100, you can either choose 2 of those level 1 offerings, or there's a great big stamp set that you can choose as a level 2 offering. So there's some good things going on right now for Sale-a-Bration. You can get this full catalog on my blog, bethspapercuts.com, and see all the offerings. And the other day I showed you a fun offering called Party Pandas. That was a real popular one. Little panda set. And today I want to show you this beautiful set called Heartfelt Blooms. It's got a really large flower image and then 3 sentiments, and they're really pretty. The font on this is really a pretty font. I accidentally ordered wood mount. I don't normally order wood mount, but I'm kind of glad that I did, because it's a really nice size block, and I can get some nice coverage with this wood mount stamp. And normally the wood mount is a little more expensive because you pay for the wooden blocks, but with Sale-a-Bration it's free, so might as well. If you like wood mount, this is a good time to get some wood mount stamp sets. Okay, so I'm going to make this card. Now I'm going to change it up slightly. When I made it originally, I made it for a display that I had made. And now that I'm thinking about making it as a card class, or using it at my card buffet or my stamp camp, I wanted to find a way to get more from each piece of paper. So for example, this really beautiful whitewashed wood designer series paper comes from the Wood Textures designer series paper pack, and when I made it this size I could only get 1 card per sheet, because the sheets in that set are 6 by 6, so it cut just slightly too big to get 2. And you know, I need to make a lot for my card buffet and my stamp camps. I have a lot of stamp campers and a lot of card buffeters. So I found that if I just made it a smidge smaller, I can get 2 from 1 sheet. So what I did, I'll tell you the measurements in case you want to make some of these and you want to make more than 1. So from 1 sheet, if you cut it, here we go, that's 1 6 by 6 sheet, and it's on white, so it's kind of hard to see. So this dimension is 3. So you're going to cut, first you're going to cut across here, this one here, and that is 4 1/4. So you're going to cut at 4 1/4, and then put that aside, and you're going to cut this at 3, and that way you get 2, and then you're going to have this fun piece left over, and you're going to use that for your tag. So you'll use up a little bit of that, and you'll have a little bit left over. You can make another tag for something else. So that's a way to get 2 of these cards from 1 piece of the Wood Textures paper. You're going to love this paper, so saving this paper is a really good thing. So my finished product is going to look a little bit different than this finished product, and that's okay, because actually I stamped in the background here, and while I like the look of that, you don't see it as much. So by shrinking this 1/4 inch, I'm going to see even more of my background. So there's a double good reason to shrink that. So let's make this card. It's actually very simple. It's using a new style of stamp called Distinctive. The ink is in there, and they kind of boldface that in the catalog. And what they've done here is they've got, and you can't really, if you had it in front of you in person, you'd see this, but there's just little tiny holes, and the cutting on this is small. Little tiny cuts, and what this allows is for the ink to really collect in some places more than others, and you've got that light and dark without doing the layering that we sometimes have to do. You know how sometimes we have one stamp that you do in a lighter shade, and then you put another stamp on top to get the darker shade? This time it's done all for you, because the stamp really saturates the ink in the heavy areas, and then there's these teeny tiny little holes in the other areas to kind of make a lighter look. So this deep and light image is achieved just with 1 stamp, which is really cool. No lining up here. so let's stamp that. I used Night of Navy. Another thing I used for my card is the Stamp-A-Majig, and this is an imaging sheet. I wanted to make sure that it was right in the center. See how on this one I'm a little low? It's because I didn't use my Stamp-A-Majig, and that's okay. It still looks really pretty, but now that I've cut it, I've trimmed it even more. I do want to use my Stamp-A-Majig. Had I bought this in the clear amount, maybe I'd be okay. Let's try it. So I'm kind of changing it up. Usually I like to have it exactly like my sample when I make a video, but I'm changing it up a little bit this time. Also, I just inked up my navy ink pad, so I'm going to stamp off once and do it here. I just inked it up, and it's a little blotchy. So to use your Stamp-A-Majig, you place the imaging sheet in the corner here, and then you put the Stamp-A-Majig up to the corner, and then when you leave your stamp down, you'll know that when your stamp is tight in that corner where it's going to fall. So there's my image. So I know where that's going to fall. So what I do is I figure out where I want it to be. So I want it to be right there, and actually I want to bias it slightly to the right, see, because I'm going to put that ribbon on the left. So I'm going to bias it slightly to the right, so I actually want it to sit here. Then I'm going to put the Stamp-A-Majig there. And then I know where that stamp is going to lie when I stamp it. There, now it's exactly where I wanted it, slightly biased, and I'm ready to go. Let's put that one aside for a moment, and since I already have this Stamp-A-Majig, all set up, I might as well do my second one. See, I want that right there. Now I know what some of you are thinking. Some of you are thinking, Stamparatus, the Stamparatus is coming soon, and you're right, the Stamparatus is coming soon. I can't wait for that either. But right now I'm going to use the Stamp-A-Majig. If you don't know what the Stamparatus is, you can check at my blog. I have some information about the Stamparatus. Okay, so I'm done with that, and now I'm going to do the base of the card. Okay, so we're done with the blue layer, and now we're going to do the background. So as you can see, this is a piece of crumb cake, and it's 8.5 by 11 cardstock, which I have cut in half and then scored down the center. And so what we're going to do for this background, and here I used, and you can barely see, I used Versamark ink. So you get like a slight tone-on-tone look here. And what I've decided to do on this one, I'm going to see which one I like better, is do crumb cake on crumb cake, which is going to yield a darker image. And then all I've done is kind of stamped around the corner. I like that it goes off the top, so I'm going to fold this. And I'm just going to, it's only going to show around the edges, so I'm going to stamp it a few times going around the edges. And I think when the recipient sees this, they can tell that it says the same thinking of you, because the font is the same and it's the same, and here you can see the thinking, here you can see the you. So yeah, you can't read it all the way around, but it's still a really pretty background. So I'm using crumb cake on crumb cake. Now some of you like to get perfect with this, and you can do that. You can use your stamp positioner for this as well. I feel like it's fun to just go with it, and I think it's still pretty. But that is up to you. So I'm going to see how much is covered here, if I need to do more. I don't think I need to do more, so I'm going to put that aside. Okay, so that is the crumb cake layer, and I'm going to clean this block. I should have done my navy all at the same time. Okay, and then remember that little scrap piece of white wood we're going to use it to stamp our little tag in navy. So let me get my Night of Navy out. And I needed 2 tags. Okay. Now on my card for my sample, I used one of the Layering Circles framelit dies. Here it is. And I'm going to use a punch this time because I'm thinking about doing this at a card buffet or stamp camp. And sometimes the line at the die machine, the Big Shot, gets long. And so I'm going to try and see what it looks like with the 1 3/4 paper punch. It's slightly larger, so you can kind of see, but so slight. So I'm going to try it anyway. And I think I did that one too high. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one kind of, I want it to be slightly low because I've got the bow at the top. So you want to go a little low on that, not centered. So that doesn't work. So I'll do it again down here. So it's nice that I have extra. I think on this one I stamped on the back side, which is a little darker. Yeah, so I'll do this one on the back, and then that one is on the white. Okay. So see how close that is? It's so close. And I think that's worth not having a backlog at the Big Shot. Okay. So now I used a handheld punch to punch a hole in the top. And then I used this beautiful gingham ribbon. I have ordered a couple more rolls of this. This is lovely and it ties really nicely. It's nice and flat. It's not real bulky. It feels nice. You can't even just see in the the picture it looks like a pretty ribbon, but in person it's just really nice. It's a nice size. I love this ribbon. So let's put the card together. The floral gets layered on top of the Night of Navy. So if you remember, this was 3 by 4 1/4. So that means this is 3 1/4 by 4 1/2, and they just get layered on top of each other. Oops, what side did I? Oh, I can't remember what side I like. I'm gonna go with the lighter one. Like I said, I just inked up my Night of Navy, so it's a little deeper on there than it is on here. So I think I need to work the ink into the pad a little bit more. So it's not quite as dark. There. And then I'm going to place these directly in here, but first I'm going to tie my ribbon. And then I use dimensionals to put it down onto the base just for a little pop. And then I actually added another dimensional underneath the tag so that it stays exactly where I want it to stay. And there you go. So you can decide, do you like the slightly smaller so you see more of the words? I think I do. And you get 2 of the bases, or 2 of the wood one as well. And I don't think that the slightly larger tag is bad either. So this is a nice card buffet card or a stamp camp, and I hope you like it. If you're in my area, please come to a camp or a card buffet. Or if you're one of my customers, I send out hand stamped cards to all my customers every time they buy, and I have a frequent buyer rewards program as well. So during Sale-a-Bration, I'm going to be sending my customers all kinds of fun Sale-a-Bration cards. I usually send a few, and you might get some Party Panda. You can even request Party Panda if you wanted, or I can send out this one or all the other cards I make with Sale-a-Bration in the upcoming months. I hope you'll check back with my videos and see what other cards I make. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.